5 seconds. Okay, we're on. Okay, you can go ahead, Supervisor.
Okay, we are now back from executive session. Can I have a first and a second to reopen the work session and continue with open discussions?
Motion.
Second.
So moved. Our first discussion is related to matters surrounding an update on the sale of EPCAL. After discussions with council and the entire town board this morning in executive session, I believe the town is now ready to move the EPCAL property forward in an effort to enable the property to become what it was intended to be, an economic development agent for the town of Riverhead. Today, we are hoping to move EPCAL forward by partnering with the Riverhead IDA to move the transaction forward without the need of the stipulated contractual subdivision, which is currently an impediment. Without the subdivision, we cannot transfer the property to any entity. As a result, the sale of the property remains stuck in a holding pattern. Therefore, the entire town board has agreed our current situation is not acceptable. Nothing good happens when you stand in the middle of the road with no direction. Today, we have a clear direction. Accordingly, today, we are moving forward with a different plan to move EPCAL forward to develop the property. Our reasoning is as follows. The EPCAL property is no stranger to the economic power of technology, and this community has always been at the forefront of the property to reach its full potential. When Grumman was based at Calverton, there was not a single year when they did not introduce aerospace innovation. However, once the property was deeded to the town in 1998, after 2 decades of speculations, now is the time to move forward and reclaim this site's heritage of job creation, economic growth, and the ability to be a world-class campus for business, innovation, benefiting all of our town. The town of Riverhead believes in the power of public-private partnership, which can create an environment to welcome business and technology development at the EPCAL Calverton site. We anticipate the creation of an enormous talented workforce, and the town's administration is anxious to assist in creating high-paying careers for our residents and a firm foundation for economic growth for many years to come. For many years, there's been so much debate over the EPCAL property. However, the time for the debates are now over. We are moving to build the future of the EPCAL property. This administration is insisting prompt action, genuine, authentic, concrete action. No more promises. It's time to progress. Let it be known, if this contract is not the answer, we have every intent to move forward. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it is the dominance of technology in our economy and our lives. Taking this step on the EPCAL agreement places the onus on the private sector to move forward on its multi-year development plan designed to transform the EPCAL site into an internationally recognized campus of innovation. The occupants will reflect a spectrum of disciplines from artificial intelligence to aviation, from cybersecurity to green energy. Okay, give me 1 second. Just give me, we are now, it's important to remember this former flight test center was dedicated to the town for the specific purpose of economic development, to restore the town's residents' employment opportunities for future generations to come. While we embrace that mandate, we must also strategically balance the economy with the preservation of critical environmental resources native to the property. The 1,000 plus environmentally sensitive land will be preserved through covenants and restrictions forever. There will also be conditions to benefit the community, such as lights at the Calverton ball fields and so on. While the parties to this agreement may share a common development vision for the property, we must also insist and ensure accountability and prompt action from Triple Five. Today, we are taking the next step in the process of realizing the full economic potential of this valuable town asset while providing very clear direction to 555, ensuring they must take every step required to fulfill their obligations, to unlock this great potential. By doing so, this property will be restored to the tax assessment roll and begin to generate revenue for the entire community. Mr. Grumman was one of Long Island's most respected leaders in aerospace and aviation across the entire globe. I would like to thank the founder, Leroy Grumman, would approve of this latest chapter in the life of Calverton Aviation. With an agreement in place, we can share his belief that our region's potential is limited only by the extent of our vision, energy, and work ethic. In Riverhead, we are rich in those resources. We are currently in a binding contract with 555. We are not able to outright cancel the contract as has been repeatedly suggested. Such action would, give me 1 second, while talking here. Such action would tie up the property in litigation for many years to come at a cost. And moving forward, we are, this process, it will be vetted through the IDA, and we are hoping that instead we are working with our capable counsel and the IDA, and we have every intention to press 555 to fulfill their obligations as we move forward. On close examination of 555, it has revealed that it has many companies which stand independently of the Jermasian family's holdings. Each entity has its own P&L, an independent business model, and separate revenue streams. This is exactly why now is the time to move this process forward. Standing still means this property will continue to be a stranded asset, a burden on the taxpayers, and a stalemate is not going to happen under my watch. The 2018 EPCAL contract does not enable us to cancel without an empirically documented default. Therefore, we intend to move ahead, and in doing so, it will quickly become apparent if 555 is either qualified and eligible to complete this purchase, or has COVID damaged their inability to make this commitment. Dawn, can you please move this discussion further?
Sure, Supervisor. I know council's online, Frank Eisler, and perhaps the board would like to quickly hear, for the public's benefit,
Sure.
the structure of the transaction you're contemplating.
Okay, good morning, members of the board and the public. My name is Frank Eisler. I'm a member of the firm of Smith, Finkelstein, Blumberg, Eisler, and Yakubowski on Griffin Avenue. Just by way of a little background, back in June, the town board had the 555 CAT representatives come before the board to report on the status of the project and what their plans were. At that time, their counsel stressed the fact that they really wanted to take advantage of the hot market that exists currently, and that if there were a way to find a method to go forward and close the transaction now and take advantage of this very, very active market where there's great demand for the kind of industrial and related development that they're planning for EPCAL. They made that presentation very clear. As a result of that, the board has charged us with trying to find alternatives to methods, legal methods, to affect the ability to close now this transaction and do it without first having to subdivide the property. We looked at various options, and The option that I'd like to present to the board today, we think has, and believe has, a process that will bring to fairly rapid conclusion the goals of this town. One is to sell the EPCAL property and receive the $40 million purchase price, while at the same time having the property redeveloped and reused for industrial and commercial development, which is the underlying intention why the Navy and the United States Congress gave us this property many years ago, for redevelopment to make up for the loss of the Grumman facility and all the economic engines that it provided to us. So what I'd like to discuss very as briefly as possible is the framework and how this process would go forward under this concept that we have explored and believe would be workable. What is involved here is, I'm going to refer to 555 as CAT because that's how they're referred to in our contract. The town CDA owns the 22,100 acres right now in EPCAL. We're under contract to sell slightly over 1,600 of those acres. We would enter into a joint application, if the board authorizes it, to go to the IDA together with CAT. And our application would provide for the following structure. We, the CDA, would transfer title to all of the acreage to the IDA. Under the IDA protocols, a written agreement would be entered into with the town CDA and with CAT. It's called a lease and project agreement. Under that agreement, the CDA would be leased back the lands that we call the town purpose lands, where we have the ball fields, we have the sewer discharge area, and the community housing and 2 other parcels. And CAT would be leased the 1,600 acres that are the subject of our contract with them. The terms of the lease would require, and this agreement, this lease and project agreement, would require CAT to perform the terms of the contract we have with them presently, which is to build the intended development plan that is called for in there, which would entail $1 million to renovate the runways and to build out 1 million square feet of industrial and commercial facilities. The contract would be administered and overseen by the IDA. When we sign the agreement, once we get the application approved by the IDA, we would receive from CAT the $40 million purchase price up front. They would then go into their lease, and we would have, as a CDA, our lease, and we would run our properties the same as we have currently been running them. CAT would then proceed to get the approvals to develop the property. One of the key components of this arrangement would be that CAT would be obligated to secure the subdivision approval that we have been attempting to get on behalf of the CDA. They would have to prosecute that application, and once it's granted, the IDA would then convey back fee title to the CDA for the town-owned parcels, and at that point would convey fee title to the 1,600 acres or so that are under our contract to be sold to CAT, and that fee title would go to CAT. Under the arrangement, CAT would still, even after getting full title to the property back, would be obligated to comply with all the IDA requirements of the agreement the IDA would have with them for the project build-out. The CDA would have fee title, and as it has now, and nothing significantly would have changed as a result of that. The concept that we have discussed will bring the following benefits and will be included in the IDA agreements. And I'm just going to read them so that I cover them all. One is that the town CDA will receive the $40 million upon signing of these initial agreements, which we would foresee occurring optimistically in about 6 months' time. We have to apply to the IDA once the applications are completed, and they will then process through their own procedures the application, and we believe it will take about 6 months to get approval for that. When that approval occurs, that's when the $40 million payment will come to the town. The terms of this IDA process will require that CAT pay all of the CDA's expenses for the IDA application, including all of the town's attorney's fees related to that. Under the current situation where we were processing the subdivision directly, the town was bearing all the costs of that. We're switching the cost of going forward for the IDA process onto CAT. CAT would have to purchase and install lighting at the ball fields at EPCAL, which would benefit the entire community. They would have to submit all of the conditions of the terms of our current contract, the terms, their obligations to their build out of the intended development plan will remain in full force and effect. They will now have to be paying taxes on the land and have a pilot agreement with the IDA like any other developer that will immediately put the property back on the tax rolls as to the real property taxes for the land. Any improvements that they make will be added to the tax base as they are built. So that during this process, we will immediately, in the next tax year, see the benefits of getting taxes on EPCAL, which we haven't had for the entire time we've owned it. They will be required to pay the land taxes, sewer and water, and other special district taxes from the moment they take, the agreement goes into effect with the IDA. Critical to the process to get the IDA approval of our application and joint application with CAT will be that CAT will have to demonstrate to the satisfaction of the IDA their financial capability of going forward with the total build out of the project. There is a provision in our contract which we believe will be incorporated into any IDA approval that requires CAT to post performance bonds upon getting their ownership interest. And we would foresee that that would likewise be required as part of the IDA situation. We would include in any approval of going forward the condition that should the IDA determine that CAT is not financially capable of doing the development, that would enable the town CDA to terminate the contract of sale that we have with CAT right now. If the IDA is satisfied with their financial ability to perform, then the project would go forward under the IDA scrutiny. Included, as the supervisor indicated in her statements, as a requirement through the IDA process, CAT will have to preserve the 1,000 acres of land that have been designated for preservation under the Comprehensive Habitat Improvement Plan that the DEC has approved, which is 1,000 acres of the 1,600 acres that they would have ownership of, or would be leasing and then ultimately own. They can still develop the same 600, I believe the number is, 600 acres of development of the balance of the land, but must preserve 1,000 acres. At some point, the town CDA will acquire title to the Navy parcels on the southern part of the property. We call them parcels A and B. Those would be required to stay also in preserved status. And of course, the Pine Barrens property that's on the western end of EPCAL will likewise be forever preserved. That's in addition to the 1,000 acres that CAT would be required to preserve and also maintain so that the critical habitats would be protected. There will be a requirement that CAT cannot interfere with the bicycle trail that exists around EPCAL. And as I said before, even after the subdivision is approved, which CAT will be obligated, as I said, to pursue and obtain the approvals, and title then goes into CAT, they will still be under the IDA jurisdiction and control to make sure that the full build-out occurs. A little long-winded, but that's basically what we see as the framework going forward under this alternative process.
Just so everybody knows, we did discuss this at length, with our town attorneys, community development, council, and so we've kind of covered a lot of our questions, I think, and we have, I think we're in a great direction, so.
Yeah, I'd just say that one of the things we spoke about in executive session that's going to be implemented is the fail-safe. If IDA does not feel that they can fulfill their financial obligations in the build-out phase, that the contract will be terminated. And at that point, we'd have to start back at square one. But I think that's a wise decision for us to make a provision of the agreement.
So this,
In terms of the DEC, I had some questions about who would provide water to this property. As we know, that's an issue right now. That no longer becomes our problem in the sense that it would be the problem of CAT to have to deal with that once they subdivide and do what they're going to do up there. I asked about the effect of the real estate transaction. We deal with, I believe, Cushman and Wakefield on this, and they would have no effect on that. They would still get their broker's fee as they were part of this when CAT came into the picture. I questioned whether there would be another Q&E. It wouldn't be by us, and it wouldn't be a formal Q&E, but it would be done with the IDA. And again, as was just mentioned, if they don't meet the qualifications that we feel or the IDA feels at the time, that contract obviously can be and will be voided. So those were the big concerns that I had, and they were addressed, and I think we're moving in the right direction on this. And we're going to do some more talking and thinking about it in the meantime, but this is what it is, and I'm glad we presented this to the public today. Thank you, Frank. I think you did a very good job explaining it, and let's move forward.
this, I think
Okay,
also alleviates.
can I? Okay. Dawn and Anne Marie, I know you've been working endlessly for months on this, and I want to congratulate you. I know there was a lot of legal work behind this, and Frank, from what I gathered today, we see that we are not, we do not have to include the DEC. This is a way, they're actually removed from the formula. The Suffolk County Water Authority is also removed from this formula. And at any time thereafter, if these conditions are not met, we can now move away from the EPCAL contract. And I just also want to point that there's been an extensive amount of funds that have gone through this effort since 2018, November 2018, when the contract was signed. And I know, Dawn, I made it a point that from this moment on, CAT is now going to be responsible for all legal fees. And I'm glad that they agreed. You told us that today, and I think that was very critical. It saves the taxpayers a tremendous amount of money, and the onus now is on them to any fees with the IDA or legal costs, they have to absorb them, and I'm happy to hear that. Under those conditions, I know that we're going to continue talks with the entire town board, and I think I agree with Tim that we should go forward and continue again with the conversations. And so, Dawn, back to you.
Okay, I think Councilman Rothwell had a comment or a question.
I just would want to say this brings also like a conclusion to the financial concerns about 555. This is basically the final opportunity to, put the money forthright and up. And so potentially we could have payment within 6 months. And if not, then we have the opportunity to move on at that point. So I think this puts a conclusion to any financial concerns as well. So they will prove that they have the finances, they will pay the finances, put the money up, and as well as the performance bond. And if not, it gives us an opportunity to move on.
I want to thank the CDA, Anne Marie, and the IDA for coming up with this creative solution, bringing it to the board, and I feel real strong about the board and the supervisor. I support this. This brings this full circle to Ken's point, and so we're like 6 months away instead of waiting. We waited 4 years. It's out of the DEC's hands, which is critical, and we can move forward and find out one way or another. Is it going to be purchased by CAT? If not, it goes back up for sale.
The preservation of the 1,000-plus acres that was a concern of many of our residents has been addressed. The town, to get the benefit of lighting on the ball fields, is certainly a nice find for us. I'm the only member left up here that actually voted on the contract, and I voted against the contract because I wasn't happy with it in sum and substance. But it did get passed, and we're here today, and I think we're making the best out of a murky situation that we absolutely can. And I too want to thank Dawn and the CDA, Anne Marie, and Tracy and the IDA for all your work put into this, because I think this is going to be a terrific solution.
Okay.
And Frank, I thank you for your on this being part of all this.
Dawn?
Yes.
Now that, what's the next step?
So if the board is inclined, we could do a resolution on Tuesday. It would be late because it's not in the packet currently, but you would be able to discuss it today at your work session. So I think if you're willing to consider that, we can move ahead in that direction.
I support.
I favor that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Absolutely.
So we'll have that ready for you, ASAP. All right, I think
That's a
Okay.
great update.
that's a good update.
Yes.
Weekend update. All right,
Thank you, Dawn, again, and Anne Marie, IDA, and Tracy, and Frank. I know that you've been working on this for quite a few months. And I just want to make one point before we close, that this is not a common transaction. It happens across the entire state.
yes.
Many of transactions along this nature. So we are thinking outside the box, but we're not going into murky waters, into a situation where may not happen. It has happened across the entire state. So we're going to move forward. Our next discussion is related to a presentation concerning the transit-oriented development area, also known as the train station area. Last May, we created a TOD committee. The committee was tasked with evaluating the proposals we received for the redevelopment of our train station parking area. This project has a long history. In 1998, the town created an urban renewal area for the railroad station and the surrounding blighted area. The concept was to develop and revitalize the area and remove the blight. the town acquired a few dilapidated buildings in the late 1990s and created a 2-acre parking lot. Unfortunately, there was little interest in the area by developers, and the area remained underutilized and blighted. The 2005 comprehensive plan recommended increasing density in the area to combat the blight. However, the town board at that time declined to adopt the recommendations, and the blight persisted. The town took another look at the area and updated the urban renewal plan in 2008, and changes were made. However, the area remained blighted. In 2016, the town completed the Brownfield Opportunity Area Study, also known as BOA, which was created by Nelson Pope and Voorhees, which included full public engagement and resulted in a recommendation to redevelop the area as a transit-oriented development. In late 2020, an eye towards finally revitalizing the area with funds from a grant, the town created a strategic transit-oriented development plan and adopted new zoning. Thereafter, we issued an RFP in March of 2021 seeking a developer for that area. In May 2021, we received 6 proposals and created a TOD committee to evaluate the proposals. Many members of the 10-member committee are here with us today, and I want to personally thank them for their dedication and service to our community. The members are Richard Wines, Roy Sakalakis, Steve Shorga, Brian DeLuca, Tracy Stark James, Anne Marie Prudenti, Diane Burr, Jeff Murphy, Kathy Eisman, and James Farley. This committee met many times, reviewed many lengthy and complicated documents, and discussed these proposals at length. At the end of this year, they conducted their work and they concluded their work, and after careful consideration, has recommended the proposed submitted proposal by RXR and Georgica Green Ventures to the town board. They are here with us today to present the proposal. We have come a very long way, and there is a strong potential to move this area forward and achieve our long-time goal to revitalize the train station area. Dawn, I'm going to give this back to you, and can you move this discussion forward, please?
Sure. We have RXR and GGV here today to do a presentation, so I'm going to let them start. They're ready to go.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Madam Supervisor, members of the council, the audience, our team, members of the public. My name is Joe Graziosi. I'm the Executive Vice President of Residential Development and Construction for RXR. It's a great pleasure to be here this morning to present to you the work that we've done, frankly, since March. Before I do so, though, I think I, too, would like to thank the selection committee, and in particular point out the work that Ms. Thomas has done on this project and spearheading, really, and keeping us all in line and continue to look for these opportunities. I say that because when I first received the RFQ to my desk in March of last year, and I read it, it didn't seem at the end of the day that there was a big opportunity. But when I got back out into Riverhead, and I got together with our partner Dave Gallo, who I don't need to introduce because he's done a lot of work here, and I started to spend time in Riverhead with my team, and I started to look at the opportunities that exist in Riverhead, it really came apparent that we were going to put our best foot forward to try to win this opportunity to be the master developer. And I say that twofold because, one, I want the supervisor and this board to realize that we're not just looking at this TOD project. We're looking much beyond this TOD project. We see this really as a start of a relationship here in the town of Riverhead, and bringing our capabilities, our skills to partner with you to help move this along. I'd like to introduce the team we have with us today between our partners, obviously RXR, Georgica Green, and Torty Gallus, a very, very experienced architect and a planning firm that we've done a lot of business with. I have with us today our president, founder, and partner of RXR, Michael Matoro. Also, Joanne Manieri, who is the senior executive COO of Construction and Development. Thomas Kelly, who is our senior project manager, and Alicia Prasad, our project manager, who would be involved on a more day-to-day basis on this project. Also from our partners team, George Green, Dave Gallo, and as I said earlier, needs less of an introduction, obviously, than I do, because he's done a lot in this great town, and we've visited his properties, and he's got a lot of other properties in mind, so we're excited about that. And then his team of Matthew and Allison, again, who don't require introduction because they're very close to the properties here and the people here. And then lastly, Eric Alister, who is our architect for the plans here that we're going to share with you today. So I'll step down for a moment, and I'll turn this over to Mike Matoro to talk a little bit about RXR, then Dave Gallo to talk a little bit about George Green, and then we'll really get into the meat and potatoes of the vision that we have for this particular property. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. So I guess I'm the appetizer here. But again, I want to reiterate Joe's gratitude to the town board, town supervisor, and the town of Riverhead for having us here today. And my job here is to maybe give you a little bit of a perspective of RXR. Obviously, it's important from the standpoint of understanding, who you're going to be partnering with. Obviously, that's critical. And I think I'd start with the fact that we are Long Islanders at heart. Through RXR and our predecessor entity, we've been developing and operating here on Long Island for over 60 years. I live on Long Island. I've raised my children on Long Island. My partner, Scott Reckler, was born here on Long Island, is a Long Islander. I'm first vice chair of the board of the Long Island Association. I'm also chairman of the Economic and Development Committee. So, through that lens, I have great relationships and coordination with a whole spectrum of not only business leaders, but institutional leaders in terms of education, the medical field, and that organization provides a great deal of relationships that we can bring to the partnership. I'd also add that as far as my team, Joanne Manieri, Hosford grad, a trustee of Hofstra, former deputy county executive here in Suffolk County. I would say she's Miss Long Island, but and we have a long-term working relationship. Actually, we started out together, I hate to say this, Joanne, but maybe 40 years ago. So, and then Joe Graziosi, who introduced himself, a lifelong resident of Glen Cove, and instrumental in driving our transformation of the waterfront on Long Island. So he brings tremendous set of history and skills, and you couldn't have anybody better in terms of leading this project. So really deep into Long Island, and we care about Long Island. In terms of RXR itself, we're a large organization. We have over 530 people. And just a little bit about that, about 200 of those people are here on Long Island, so we're a big employer of people here, but very diverse group of skill sets. And that's really important in terms of land planning, engineering, architectural, and then property management, leasing, all those real estate skills that we bring together, coupled with a significant organization around acquisition activity and finance and tax and marketing and all those things. But more recently, as it's very important in today's society, we're big resources dedicated to ESG, dedicated to social impact investing. And we have people that actually head up groups, and they'll be part of the team that works on this project. In terms of our financing, we've raised about $10 billion of equity over the last 15 years that we've been organized as RXR. And part of my role is raising that capital, and we do that on a global basis. And what's interesting is that while we're not investing globally, we're investing regionally and more recently nationally, a number of our partners obviously invest globally. And what I'll tell you is these types of transformational projects are not only happening in this region, not only happening in the U.S., but happening around the world. And by having those relationships with these investors, we're seeing some very interesting things around the globe in terms of transit-oriented development and rebuilding transformation of communities that I think we'll be able to add in terms of ideas, innovation, as we work through this project. In terms of our footprint, we are, go back to the other page, I'm sorry. In terms of our footprint, we have about $22 billion of invested assets. It's about 30 million square feet. And I think it's important to point out that we have a cross-section of experience in terms of the products that we work on. Residential, obviously, office, mixed use, logistics, infrastructure. And I think that's really important in terms of what we bring to the project of having a very well-rounded set of skills and dealing with complexity. All projects are complex, and having this cross-section of experience in different sectors allowed us to look at things in many different ways, and I think we'll be able to bring that to this project. In terms of our fabric and character, you know, in who we are, and you see at the right side of this page, we actually just celebrated our 15th anniversary as RXR. We had formerly run a public company that was based here on Long Island called Rex and Associates that we sold in January 2007, and started from owning 25 million square feet of space in the region down to 0, and over the last 15 years have built our company back up to even bigger than what we were as a public company. But always kind of thinking about that ethos, that character that we want to bring forward. And we have our slogan, which is doing good and doing well means doing better. And it's based in the concept that it has to be a win-win situation, and it has to be good for the community. And while we try to do well in terms of returns for our investors, we also need to do good. We need to be participants in our community. We need to do good for our community, and it's part of our ethos. And if you follow down this page, you'll see what it's built in some of the things we believe in doing the right thing, and we're very value-oriented. We believe in leading with bold ideas. We tend to be and believe we are innovative in taking risk and kind of looking at the landscape and seeing what's not there but what could be there is a big part of what we do. We strive for excellence, and I think you'll find with our team, and particularly with what Joe has done in Glen Cove, to only do the best. This project will be the best there is. You'll be extremely proud of what we do together. We try to stay humble, but hungry. And it's interesting, as being a large New York City owner and developer, New York City developers tend to have a reputation of being predatory. And we're kind of known as the nice guys in New York City, which we're okay with. We like that. But that served us very well. We're a big believer in building and cultivating relationships, and I think Joe mentioned that over time. We want to be here. We want to build a relationship. We want to not do one project. We want to do many projects. We want to help you create the vision that you have for your town. And we believe in acting like an owner. We're accountable. We'll never pass any blame. We'll always look to working towards solutions together. A big part of this, you can turn the page, is the community effort and being committed to our communities that we participate in. We believe in a long-term approach as a true long-term partner. We're not here for one project. We're here to contribute to the future of the community, and we do that through our personal investment by job creation, working with the MWBE community, local participation, You'll see, and we've done this in many of our other projects, where we try to work with local vendors and create that economic development that we heard in the prior presentation that you're so interested in looking for. As I said, innovation, we've developed some interesting programs. Our RXR volunteer platform that has served many people across the region that we would look to deploy here. And we're an advocate for the communities that we live in and participate in. We have many people that serve in organizations that support the community. And so, you know, it's about a win-win situation. That's what we look to create here. It's genuine engagement. It's about sitting down. It's about having conversations. It's about working through problems together. It's not about what we think. It's about what we think together. And I think you'll see that type of philosophy is what will carry through in completing this project from the beginning all the way to the completion. Next slide. And then, you know, as important is, you know, really what are the results? You know, when we visit our investors, we always have to look at our track record. You know, what have we done? How have you delivered in results? And I'm proud to show in the projects that we've done in the region here, and these are just a few of them in Glen Cove, we've created a huge amount of jobs, economic development, permanent jobs, $113 million of locally awarded contracts. And it's a great deal of focus of ours. And we've done this in Garvey's, in Glen Cove, in New Rochelle, $98 million of locally awarded business, $19 million of awarded business to MWBE. It's a great focus of ours, and we've done this in other places like Yonkers. So we hope to have the same results here. It's key to what we believe in, and it's something that we focus a lot on. And then just lastly, this shows you kind of our presence in the region, which has been growing significantly here on Long Island, in Westchester, and in Stamford, Connecticut. We're actually growing outside the region in other areas of the country, taking this same philosophy. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is understanding the trends. And we spend a lot of time doing market research, understanding the demographics. And one of the things we've developed is, as we see it, the concept of super cities and super regions. And that's the concept that while urban areas like New York City are mainstream in terms of driving economic development, what we're seeing, and it's being particularly accelerated during and post-COVID, is that the regions need to participate in creating these super regions. And there needs to be a tie-in between the city and the regions. And how do you do that? A big part of that is transit-oriented development, creating that connectivity between the cities and the outer regions. And this is a project that fits well right into that. We follow this motto of following the EDS, MEDS, and WELL-EDS. And we think that educational systems, medical systems, and well-led communities and municipalities is where we see growth, where we see employers want to be, and where we see the talent wanting to live, work, and play. And building these types of communities is where we think the future is, and places like Riverhead can participate. So I think I've spoken enough as an introduction. We're very excited about this project. We're very excited about being your partner. And we have a great team along with Dave and his team. And I guess I'll ask Dave to come up and speak a little bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning. I echo what Joe and Mike had said, and appreciate all of the hard work from the Supervisor's Office, Dawn, Town Board, the Selection Committee, many of you are here today that have been working on this really impactful project. I will tell you that, and maybe you could go back 2 slides, that we have been working with RXR for many years now. This isn't our first project, and I'm going a little off script now on my notes, but we're working on that Garvey's Point project with them, and we're working on the New Rochelle project. And everything that Joe and Mike had said is true. They really genuinely do work with the community. They're working with us as a development team, and it's just been a great partnership on those two projects, and we're so excited to have the potential to work on a third. So many of you do know Georgica Green Ventures, but for those of you that don't, this is a very, very tough act to follow because we are nowhere near the size of RXR, but we have been around for 10 years and we've contributed to 1,400 apartments, mostly here on Long Island and in Westchester. Those apartments have ranged from, senior housing, veteran housing, domestic violence survivor housing, storm recovery housing, and affordable housing and market rate housing. And we're very proud of what we've been able to do. It's almost $1 billion in development, much of it mixed use and much of it near transit-oriented development. In addition to being developers, we're also contractors and we're property managers. And through our construction, we have a wide range of construction abilities. We've been pioneering modular construction, two-story, multi-story housing on Long Island and Westchester. We're also building concrete buildings, block and plank buildings, and 20-story towers in Coney Island, and one in New Rochelle with our partners at RXR. We currently have 5 sites under construction. So really, what does that mean, right? You're selecting a development team. We are really in the development process, right? We're meeting with building departments, planning departments, we're working with CDAs, we're working with IDAs, and very proud of the Georgica team. And, we're like a well-oiled machine. 5 sites under construction. We have boots on the ground at all of these sites, and we're working hard to develop projects that everyone can be proud of. I said 5, but yesterday, proudly, we received our TCO in Coney Island. We're the first tower to be built in Coney Island and part of the 2009 rezoning and revitalization. Leases are being signed today, and we're executing on a very similar master plan that this town wants to coordinate. That plan has 7 buildings. We've completed 2. We're going to begin our 3rd. And we started that in 2015, and it's likely to go for another 10 years. As I mentioned, 2 projects with RXR within the 5 that we have under construction. So I've covered a lot on this page, but I just want to also pinpoint a couple of things that I think let Georgica stand out. And the first one is our ability to obtain the necessary financing. Many projects that we close and do, other developers have walked away from. And the reason for that is it's really, really tough to make land prices work and construction work. But when we do projects, and the project that I'll talk about on the next slide, or maybe the slide after it, Riverview Lofts had 9 sources of funds. And we brought private equity, state money from ESD, thank you to Dawn, and other aspects, and collectively 9 sources of funds to ensure that that project got off the ground. Second item is, and layering those financing sources become very difficult, and getting each one of them to actually play nicely with one another, very difficult. But the reality is, those projects have contributed, and those financing schemes have contributed to the 17 developments currently underneath our belt. Second item is, quality housing and the quality of life of the residents living in there, and the continued relationship through property management and working with the communities. Like Mike said, we're not in this to leave. Long-term owners, working with the community, making sure that we deliver on our promises. Things will happen, but knowing that people have my cell phone number, they can call. There's an issue with the fire marshal, he calls me. There's an issue with something that we're not doing, we're here for the long term, and something that we're very proud of within the company to continue to have that culture. And what Mike also talked about was, and I think you can see that the 2 companies' chemistry works really well together because we believe in a lot of the same things. And if we didn't, we wouldn't be starting, new projects together. But that project in Coney Island, like I had just mentioned, and what we had hoped to do and what we hope to do going forward is, with minority, women-owned businesses, we finished the project. We have completely exceeded all of the requirements, more than $11 million of local hiring, minority, women-owned businesses. The standards that were set, we've exceeded them through job fairs and making sure there's local continuity and people that are living in the area get to work in construction and going forward. Next slide. So here's our map of what we've done. And, you know, what I'd like to just point out is you'll see a lot of it, you know, towards the east end. We're very proud of the fact that we're one of the few developers that have this many projects in Suffolk, but even more so in Southampton, in East Hampton, and Riverhead, and really understanding the true Twin Forks. The other thing that I'll point out is, I mean, you can't overlap them, but most of these developments have happened in the same community. So you know, we do one project and we come back and do another one. We're completing projects on time, we're completing them on budget, and with the quality and, you know, that we've promised to the community. And in Southampton, second project, we're starting our third. East Hampton, we should close next week, starting our second one after our first. And we're proud that we've earned that reputation with the municipalities where they're approving future projects, and we hope to do that here too. And lastly, just for this slide, this gives you an idea of what we're also doing on the property management side. Next slide. So some of you may know our Riverview Lofts project. Listen, I fell in love with Riverhead years ago, and partly because Connie Lissandro and Rob Savatico and other friends were telling me that there was huge opportunity in Riverhead, and I think Riverhead has amazing resources. The agriculture, which often gets, you know, lost, the arts, I know Diana's here, the amazing riverfront, and the historic Main Street. And there is just so much beauty and so much potential down here in Riverhead. When we started Riverview Lofts years ago, you know, vacant dinosaur museum, corner of the site there, right next to the Hyatt. People were parking there, utilizing the site, but it wasn't being used. And we're proud of what we've accomplished. 116 units. The building itself is 5 stories, mix of studios, 1s and 2 bedrooms, wide-ranging rents, and really what we had hoped to do here, and I think we are executing it, is being the catalyst for future development. It's these, you know, it's this project, these rents that lenders rely on, that market studies where they come and say, what are the rents in the area? How are you getting to that? We leased up this building in 26 days, and we know exactly what the rents are, and we know where the market's going, which is why we have such a positive outlook, you know, for Riverhead. And in closing, you know, we've continued to try and bring vibrancy, walkability to this downtown. We don't look at the TOD as an island to itself. Working with RXR through the multiple iterations that we've had and that we've done, because we've been back to the drawing board working with the design team, but in this building and in that area, making sure that there's connectivity. It's safe. There's people are walking, pedestrian friendly, and in this particular, you know, site, we wanted to activate the riverfront with the brewery, and we think that it's been super successful. And we're also working really hard to make sure that we activate Main Street just as carefully as we have the riverfront. So on that note, I'm going to invite up Joanne Maneri, and thank you all very much.
Hello there. You know, listening to Mike and David, I suddenly realized that I'm sort of the glue here. I brought us together, I think. And, you know, this slide here will just discuss how everything here, all the components of this project and this team is a recipe for placemaking. You know, both RXR and GGV, you know, as you have heard, have tremendous track records of successful developments. And that's because we all believe that the community-based planning approach and great design make the difference. And working very closely with the public parties helps for a successful project. Working closely, as we heard earlier, not only with the community, but with the town, the county, the IDA, the LIRR, and the MTA will really make a difference in the success of this project. And when I was the Deputy County Executive of Economic Development and Planning for Suffolk under County Executive Steve Ballone, I first met David Gallo, and he came to me because he was looking to do the Riverview Lofts. And I knew, and I think we all know now, that transit-oriented development was and still is a very key element of any community's economic success. And so when he came to me, I know Riverhead. My family lives in Hampton Bays. I've been to the aquarium. I've participated in East End Arts. So I met David. I heard what his vision was. I knew exactly where he was talking about. And I said, we're going to make this happen. And I am so, so excited. I'm getting the chills now just being around for the success, because it takes that much dedication, that much commitment, and that persistence to make transformative change. And the momentum that you have here in the town of Riverhead, we want to keep it going. We want to be a big part of it. And the project around transit really does need to have a seamless connection into the downtown, as both Mike and David have said. You already have the key elements of placemaking, your arts, culture, your hospitality, your entertainment, your open space, and your waterfront. And we think this project, along with the global master planning that's going on here in the town of Riverhead, will continue to support small businesses, but also attract new and important opportunities. One of the things we truly believe in at RXR is that we only succeed if the communities we develop in succeed. And that's really the underlying mission for us here today. You know, our team is extremely excited to be a part of this master planning momentum that's occurring here in Riverhead. And we really do look forward to being a part of the success. Thank you. And now back to Joe.
Thank you, Mike, Joanne, and David. And I'm going to jump through a couple of slides here because we really need to get to the meat and potatoes. But I think it's important, right, that this board and the supervisor and this community, in making a decision such as this, really understand the companies and the people behind those companies that are coming, because we ultimately are going to be your partners in this, right? And I've often said, when we go through planning, it's really not until you're picked do you really have the opportunity to get the feedback back from the other side, where we're sitting down as ladies and gentlemen, better understanding what it is that we want to accomplish at the end of the day. So I think the team is the right team. I just have to spend a moment on the Garvey's Point project, only because I spent 30 years on it, 15 of it with Mike. But the Garvey's Point project, you know, and I really encourage this board to, you know, call our references and call other mayors in these communities we work on. But, you know, here's a 56-acre site, okay, over $1 billion project at the end of the day, 1,100 units, where we created so much change. That was a brownfield, right? This was a contaminated site on the seaside, 35 governmental agencies, and frankly, 30 years of my own involvement, even owning some of this property, to get to a point where today it's flourishing. It's just incredible walking along the seaside. I tell all of that for one reason and one reason alone, and that is that we have the stay power to stay in. You know, people ask me all the time, I'm building condos, Ritz-Carltons, all this stuff that we're not even presenting today. And people ask me all the time, Joe, why isn't there more of this, right? Why isn't this more housing options, et cetera? And the fact is, and I don't mean this in a negative way, it's really hard to get anything done in New York, right? We all know that, and in other states as well. Bureaucracy, governmental bodies, right? DEC, so on and so forth. We heard that before. And I think that what you'll find, and I know that what you'll find with RXR and George Green as we drive this, and I've got Mike driving me on a daily basis, is that we'll stay the course. We'll figure it out. When the roadblocks come up, we'll find a way around them. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric to really talk about our vision of the downtown and get you even more excited.
Good morning. As was said earlier, my name is Eric Alesti. I'm a partner in the firm of Torty Gallison Partners. We're planners, urban designers, and architects. We have been around for now 69 years, which is quite a while. I haven't been around for 69 years, but I've been there for 20-some. We're a firm that is really dedicated to making a better world through what we do. So much of the built environment is really what's what the legacy is, what's going to last, is going to be there forever. And it's really the stage set where we live our lives, our life occurs. We bring to the table a lot of transit-oriented development experience, sustainability, placemaking, healthy communities, and those are all things that are very germane to this particular project and this particular site. We have worked for 20 different, or with 20 different transit agencies throughout the United States and internationally. We've done over 100 transit-oriented development projects, everywhere from planning to architecture. We have worked in 50 different cities doing TODs, and we have housed over 1 million people, which is quite a few people. When you look at the images on the right, one thing I'd like to say is that we've been awarded over 400 national, international, and local design awards. And we certainly appreciate the recognition for that. But one of the things that's really important is that gives us the ability to attract talent. Because in the end, a firm is really about the people and the quality that they bring to the table. I like to say, though, that even though you might win awards, the proof is in the pudding, right? Go and look at the projects that have actually been built, and are they successful? And what you see here are images of transit-oriented development projects in different cities that are built, that have generous and wonderful public spaces. They're beloved by their communities. The bottom middle image is actually in Wyandanch, where we did the master plan, the form-based code, some of the concept architecture for the train station and design review of the buildings. This was when Joanne was with the county. We worked together. And I think you can see that, again, the proof is in the pudding. What are the kinds of places that have been able to be delivered? Next. A big part of what we do is placemaking. You may have heard this term. It sort of sounds like a kind of esoteric term sometimes, but it really is actually a science and a bit of an art. The way we frame it is that placemaking has 5 key elements. It has the public realm, which means the public spaces, the streets, the walkable sidewalks, civic institutions, public art, those kinds of things. Land use, meaning what are the actual uses that go in there? Are there uses on the ground floor that activate the streetscape? Are there people that live there? The architecture, meaning the buildings. Buildings should really understand that they play a role in creating the civic public environment, that they need to be of a pedestrian scale, that they need to be friendly. Programming, which means the activities that go on there, whether that's in the public spaces or in the buildings. And then at the very center is the people and the community. And that's a key element to bring all those things together. And that's something that we have a lot of experience doing, in bringing those things together into successful places. Next. So in the RFP was for the TOD site itself, but it did say that the town welcomed the teams to go beyond the site and to think beyond the site, which we appreciate because we can't stay in the lines. We always look sort of beyond it. But we also understand that a site doesn't exist in isolation by itself. You really have to understand what role does the site play in the bigger neighborhood, and what role can it play in a potential revitalization for an area. And so what we did here is we sort of zoomed out a little bit, and we took a look and said, what is the framework of the larger TOD beyond this site? And so we see Main Street to the south, and we see 2 sort of principal streets that carry you through. One is as you cross the bridge and you come to Courts. That's an important location. It's a gateway, really, to downtown. But it's also a gateway leading to the TOD. And then the other one is Griffin Avenue, which leads you from the north and from the train station down to Main Street. So when we went and we walked the site and we looked at the site, I'll have to say that the overwhelming image that you see is really asphalt and concrete. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of parking lots. There's even a plaza at the court space that's really just all concrete. And so we said, well, if we looked at that framework, there are some things that you could do that would really help to revitalize this area. One of the things is really making that gateway to the west more significant, taking the green space that's there, programming that, putting a feature over there. You see this TOD site, the southwest corner. from Main Street, from the gateway. So that very corner right there becomes really important. It needs to have a significant architectural feature that you see and is part of the image and tells you there's something else up here. As you move to the east along Courts, you have that plaza that I talked about. A redesign of that plaza could really make it a public space that people would actually want to be in. If you look at the bottom right image as a precedent for something that could be more like that, that's actually welcoming and actually brings some green to the area. If you continue all the way over to Griffing at the end of Courts, where it's labeled potential garage, that's your view at the end of the street. Every time you walk or drive down that street, that's what you see. So what happens there becomes really important in establishing what the image of this place is. As you move from there down towards Main Street, you have the Courts buildings, which is it's a nice classical building. It's pretty big though. The front of it, it has a big setback, but it's not a very friendly setback. It's got a lot of pavement. It's all concrete from the curb to the back of the sidewalk. It's got that concrete curb that runs along it. It's got the power lines. But in reality, you could really redesign this space as a linear green, which would be someplace that people would actually want to be. If you look at the right middle image as a precedent, it could be something that's much richer and much more engaging for the community. Excuse me. If you look at the TOD site itself, by the train station, the historic train station that isn't currently being used, that's a nice little building. It could be a little nicer, but we've proposed that that would be a great place to actually have a plaza there. And the reason that this is important is because from a train perspective, if you're traveling to Riverhead and you get off here, that's actually your front door. That's what you see, that's the image. But even if you're not coming to Riverhead and you're just kind of driving by, you're riding by, that's the image, that's what you see when the train stops. And so being sure that we create an appropriate front door becomes really important. To the north, the neighborhoods to the north, sometimes you think of it as being divided, but in reality, if you live up there or you're working up there, you actually see this site. So what you see across these tracks is going to be really important. So those are kind of some of the bigger framework elements that we looked at before we zoomed in and looked at the actual site. Next. So what you see here in the part that's not screened back in white are the parts that are part of this proposal. So on the left, you see the TOD site, and we're going to go through and look in more detail in the subsequent slides. But what you see here is a mixed-use building that lines the streets with building facades, nice facades, activated ground floors, and a courtyard that sits in the middle of that. To the north of that, there's the plaza, and there's the old historic train station that creates a kind of nice reception when you're coming from the train. To the right of that, we're proposing to relocate the bus stop a little bit. All the way far to the right is the county parking lot, and what's proposed there is a garage which would free up this TOD site for development. But one of the things that's really important is that your streetscape should not be a garage, right? And so the garage is actually set back, and we'll talk about that in a second. But on the bottom, you have some precedent images for these kinds of elements. Starting from the left, it's about a train experience that's gracious. It's about an opportunity for public art in the plaza, improved streetscapes, a plaza space that you can hang out in, architecture that's appropriate to the culture and to the region, and things for people to do, opportunities for food and beverage. Next. Oh, could you go back one real quick? Forward one, yep. So one of the things that we do when we do perspective images is that they're not just kind of very loose, I'll say illustrations. They're actually constructed correctly, meaning we're going to be standing just to the left of where that bus stop label is. We're going to be standing there, and we're looking back towards the train station and back towards the plaza. Next. And so we modeled this and had a professional renderer put this together, and this is the view that you would get of this plaza. This would be your front door that greets you from the train station, and what creates a destination and a reason for people to come here. So you see the Riverhead train station, some minor modifications to the facade to make it more friendly with bigger windows, a cafe that would go in there and outdoor seating, a plaza space that's created with green with public art, and then you see the mixed-use building. That mixed-use building is primarily residential on the floors above, but the ground floor is activated with food and beverage, court-supporting uses, amenity spaces, those kinds of things. And so that's the kind of image that you would get. In this particular view, you have the shingle style of the train station. You find shingle style throughout the single-family homes, throughout the neighborhoods. And so right across on the other side of the plaza, we're proposing that shingle style for this piece of the building. And so I think you see that it can be a really transformative kind of project for the area, and function really as a catalyst to change the perception of what this area is. Next. So these are, maybe a little hard to understand. The top left one, what it shows is that there's a podium parking on the ground floor, but that parking isn't exposed to the street. It has uses that surround the perimeter and activate the edges, very much consistent with the pattern book that Riverhead has. The bottom shows that section. On the right is Cedar, so you get the retail in the red, you get the podium. Above that is a courtyard space that residential units look out on, and on the left side, you get Osborne with amenity spaces and then residential units above. Something that's important to note here is that the building on the right is 5 stories, and then the building on the left is 4 stories. So there's a transition, right? As you're kind of close to the courts, it's taller. As you move to the north, more closer to the single-family residential, it steps down in height. Next. So these are building elevations. We have 4 building elevations for the 4 different streets. The top one shows that shingle style to the right, and then kind of a coastal colonial on the left. Something that's really important here is that this building really needs to not be monolithic, right? It needs to be broken down and look like multiple buildings. So it's a pedestrian scale. It's a scale that's appropriate for the buildings that are downtown, for the buildings that you find there. And I think you see in these elevations, you see that character of breaking these elements down. The other element that you see here is on the top image, there's that little tower. That's on the corner of the plaza, so it gives you a little wayfinding element. The elevation on the left, that's at the corner of Osborne and Courts. So there should be some kind of a tower element that you see as you cross the bridge and as you're looking from Main Street. Next. These are additional elevations. The top one shows from Courts moving to the north that it steps down in height, it breaks down in scale. And then, let's see, it's a little hard to see here. The top one on the very left is a 3-story porch. From the north, as you enter, that's also another opportunity for a kind of a feature there on the building. Next. So this is the garage over on Griffing and Railroad Avenue. So on the far right image, you see that the garage is there. This is 4 to 5 stories with about 420 to 520 parking spaces. You really wouldn't want that to be your front door, right? And so what we've done is we've set it back so that you have room for a liner building, which is shown in the green there, along the street, along Griffing, and then a wider sidewalk. And on the bottom left image is a precedent of what that liner could look like. So we certainly know that what this travel experience is along Griffing is really important. And so we did a photo montage, next. And this is what you see today. So today you see a lot of power poles, you see a lot of asphalt, you see the parking. But if you were to just improve the streetscape, if you go to the next one, in essence, move the power poles, plant street trees, add some green, some subtle things here like a bulb out at the pedestrian intersection so that it's a shorter crossing distance, crosswalks with the brick pavers. You see that the character here is significantly different. Now, if you go next, this is that image with the garage would be behind. This is the liner that would be built in front with active uses. And you see that the character would be radically different. Now, something that's interesting, it's a little hard to see because it's small, but if you go back to the first one of these, it's interesting because when you look down the street today, it looks pretty far to get to Main Street here, right? But if you go forward 2 slides and you imagine yourself walking, it doesn't feel as far anymore. And the reason for that is because it's actually a pleasant walk. There are actually things to see and do along the way. And so I think that the proposal that we have here, the design, I think is pretty sensitive and looks at what could you really do to create a catalyst that changes radically the perception of what this place is about and spurs additional investment. And I think that it would be a wonderful addition. We would love to work on this project. And as Joe said, you know, we've only started, and we're certainly, if we're officially selected, we're anxious to work with the town, with the community, to finalize what this project will be.
Great, thank you, Eric. I'm not sure when you kick us out of here, so I want to make sure we get to all the pertinent pieces. But thank you to my entire team for putting together what we put together, and the supervisor and the board for what we're taking you through thus far, right? So just to kind of put our arms around the sort of where we are. You know, we started this process in March, and we've been going at it since, and it was mentioned by the supervisor, and I appreciated hearing that, so I'm going to say it again as well, is that there were 6 other firms that were interested in this, so obviously people are interested in working in your town. We certainly, first and foremost, and we went through a process, and every time we got through the process, you know, we listened and we learned. The selection committee and walking through town and understanding more got us to this point that we're at, that Eric presented to you today. Refinements, sure. Working with the county on the garage opportunity. I know a letter has already been sent in support of that to the town board, or to at least the selection committee. And we feel we have really everything sort of lined up at this point, if and when selected, you know, to be able to advance and move forward quickly. Because what I say, the harder work is sort of already been done in the sort of last almost year now, trying to figure out how to work towards that. To just, from a style issue, to just put this all into perspective, we have produced a very short video, which we're going to share with you, of your town and our images and what we believe is happening and what can be, along with friendly faces and people in the community. And I'd like to share that with you, because I want to take this presentation outside into the parking lot at the train station, so we can all understand. We heard about RXR, we heard about GGV, we know they're great people, we know they know how to do this. Eric showed us what it is we want to do. We have the wherewithal, the financial experience, the building experience, but when you put it all into perspective, there's a lot of smiles that come along with it. So let's have a listen. And I'm sure this is where the technology gets messed up. I hope the supervisor can see this as well, right? Okay, awesome. Awesome.
At Riverhead, I think what makes me excited about this project is the opportunity to help a community implement their vision. I think that town planning and urban design really is about creating the setting, the stage for all of life to occur. And so the idea that you can come in and help to create a catalyst project and create something that makes a better place for the community.
You're rolling audio? This is where it's all going to begin, right here. You know, about 2 years ago, we finished Riverview Lofts, 116 units on the corner of McDermott and East Main Street. And we wanted to continue our investment in Riverhead and everything that it has to offer. This here finishes it, basically completing the chapters of the book that Riverhead has.
I was one of the first residents. I moved on November 14.
It's just a beautiful building. The view that you have in these apartments, you get to see the riverfront, and it's just amazing.
It's just all here, and it's all available to me, a resident. I love the fact that I can just like walk out of the building and be on the main street and walk to the pizzeria and not have to get in the car to get a gallon of milk. I like that it's developing and more like restaurants are opening.
I do like beer, which is good for a guy who owns a brewery, yes. I chose Riverhead as the location for my brewery because I really saw a ton of potential in this town. I grew up out east of here, and I always kind of wondered why Riverhead hadn't really gotten to its full potential. So I was hoping that Peconic County Brewing could be a part of the Riverhead growth that I saw coming.
I've been in the area since 1997, so I'm dating myself. Everything that's done in Riverhead is just like one step closer to being perfect. I know nothing's perfect, but, you know, I think they're on their way.
The fact that you have the courts building there and bringing employment to the area is really important.
There wasn't that long ago, the building I'm in was the new thing in Riverhead, and now with all the new locations coming, people know there's kind of a buzz, so they want to check it out before it happens.
This is also a front door to people that are coming on the rail line.
For the residents, the future residents living here, the people visiting here, from Greenport to Southold, and being able to access the train and the jobs and everything that the East End has to offer.
Today, the front door is a parking lot. I think this project will give you a front door that tells you, hey, there's something here at Riverhead.
So right behind me is the site, and as you can imagine, it's a blank slate. It's going to be a representation of what historic Riverhead is, but also an urban environment, 5-story building, 243 units.
One of the things that I'm looking forward to seeing is the implementation of the public space.
My dream for the town square would be a tunnel from here to there so everyone can get a beer.
Right behind us here, we've got what's going to be our future cafe, which is going to then open up into our plaza. Behind that's going to be our 5-story building, but what you're going to be thinking about is future farmers markets and future arts, and we're going to incorporate something special into this plaza that really memorializes what Riverhead has to offer.
This project has the opportunity to really be the catalyst that sparks a redevelopment in this area.
I think this is going to be a destination for a lot of people.
I've been really happy here. I love the diversity, and my son has enjoyed it as well.
I met my significant other here in Riverhead.
You're at Riverhead. You're responsible for my relationship.
To work with RXR and Georgica, the town of Riverhead and Suffolk County, I think it's going to make for a great future development.
I don't know what to say. Hold on. I don't know. I actually like everything here.
We'll go over the courts? Yeah, I got this. I'm going to keep hanging on to this.
Oh, you want it?
Yeah, I do.
I couldn't believe it. I saw a shark. The first time in my life I ever saw a shark was at the aquarium.
Thank you for that, Alicia and team. So, just in summary, right, we see our place here as your partner in this ongoing business, if you would. As we said, we see this TOD as one project of many that we think that we could work with you, this town board and this community. We know that it will bring economic benefits, there's no question about that. We have the right sort of vision as it relates to downtowns and how to achieve that, how to ensure environmental sustainability, how to make sure that we create jobs, we create safety within the community, that, we leave what works alone and add to it to bring more people, to get more people excited about it. And we want very much to be your partner in this. We've worked diligently, like I said, for almost a year with your selection committee. And I would just pause there. I know we've taken probably a little bit more time than we were entitled to, but I appreciate your patience with that because this is very important. And maybe just ask the supervisor and any of the board members if there are any questions that we could answer today for you, we would be happy to do so.
I think with a mere $22.4 billion thing, I would rather have seen 22.5, but I'm willing to go ahead.
It's probably happening as we speak.
Excellent presentation, very exciting.
Yes, and I could see a lot of work was put into this, and I want to commend again all the volunteers, the committee, and RXR looking at us as a potential site. And again, I'm going to agree with Councilman Rothwell. It was a great presentation, and we thank you for all the effort you put into it.
Thank you, Supervisor.
I would ask if we could get a copy of those PowerPoints, because it was a little bit tough at this angle. You had some.
Yes, we fully intend, we're going to email them to your IT people, and they'll take care of it from there.
Thank you.
The risk, Councilman, if we hand them to you before we start presenting, you tend to go to the back, so that's why we don't give them to you in advance.
Just another question. I know this is, I don't think this is necessarily final. This is your presentation. I'm just wondering if you can go up another story on each building. If the zoning was changed, does the ROI work?
Well, I mean, I don't think I can answer that, standing here, but essentially, we'd have to look at the demographics, and we'd have to look at, the sustainability of the, not, et cetera, of more units, right? But I think it would be something that, we would certainly want to explore. And what I would say, and I'm glad you put it that way, we presented within the zoning. So we didn't present something that would require a zoning change. And even when you heard Eric talk about the garage, you saw about 100 space difference in our strategy, because we're studying the parking. We've been for like 6 months, and we kind of first designed it as like 570 something, and then we started pulling it back because we weren't sure whether we actually needed all that. But again, that's that next step in this process of, once selected, we could get more serious. And to the supervisor's comment, and I really appreciate it, a lot of work has gone into this to this point, right? None of this happens without, a lot of hard work behind the scenes, but we think we have it figured out. But I think that last 10% is when we get into it with the town and really try to drive that.
I really like what Eric said about the front door when you get off the train. When I was a younger man, I spent a lot of time on the train, and I'd get to whatever the destination was, and it really is your first view, your first vision, your first impression of wherever it is that you're going. And I think, to have something that's magnificent and welcoming really will transform what we have here already in our great town.
This is part of what I've spoken about many times. People who speak out against projects like these, I keep reminding them, you got to see the big picture. And the big picture is coming to fruition with this project, starting with the 205 Osborne Avenue project, going back, starting to Mr. Gallo's project, that really led to a transformation of downtown Riverhead and is leading to the current transformation of downtown Riverhead. The slides you showed of Griffin Avenue going down with, as it is now, versus when it's tree-lined, and we talk about walkability, that makes you want to walk. When you see a picturesque setting like that, you want to walk, and you don't mind that you've got to walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks. If it's bare and overhead lines and everything else, and you're like, oh man, I got to walk all the way down there. But when you have sights and things to look at as you're going along, you don't mind, and it just goes along smoothly. So I really appreciate what you put into this. I like what I've seen.
Great.
Difficult question would be a timeframe.
Well, I mean, that's a very difficult question to answer, and the only reason that it's a difficult question to answer is, when is go, right? So, I mean, the reality is, if go is now, I think we probably have a year worth of due process to get through, right? We've got to get the county property, we've got, that sort of stuff to get over, and that's probably aggressive, but we're pretty aggressive, so, I'd say a year. And then I think from shovel in the ground, we've got to build in a way where we start the garage first, and then we go, right, because we can't lose the parking, so we got to come out of the ground with the garage. The garage is probably a 18-month project, and then we'd flip over to the residential building, and that too is like an 18-month project. So I would say from go, maybe we're looking at 4 years to everything settled and all looks like the pictures. But I think the driver is getting to go, right? And being able to start the momentum on that. And as we do, we can learn a little bit more about parking and maybe temporary parking and how we might be able to come out of the ground at the same time on the parking structure and the residential. So there's some opportunities to shorten that. But I would say in a worst case scenario, that's a realistic answer.
Go is now.
I just want to dovetail into what you've said regarding just where we are, because, you're coming in at the end of this process, and it was important for your committee to vet through this application, but also to consider the recommendations of our consultant, National Development Council, Kevin Rosen and Matt Wexler, and so you have those reports. And, I just want to remind everybody, we're building on the building blocks from 1998 here. This is, we're finally getting to where you wanted to be back then. We didn't know exactly where we wanted to be, but little by little, we've moved in a direction where I think, you know, you're ready to go. You've changed the zoning, you've done your strategic plan, you've vetted developers, and you have, you know, a very qualified developer here. So at this particular juncture, you know, this entity will have to go through the process because it's an urban renewal area of achieving qualified and eligible status, just like we've done before, just like, you know, EPCAL or even the aquarium. And you really can start that now if you're ready. We have a resolution drafted that would give it, you know, enough contingencies on our side to make sure we're, you know, where you need to be. But, you know, keeping that momentum going has been important to us, and I know to you in particular. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at if you're ready.
Dawn,
Yes, ma'am.
there's no need for a public hearing on this?
There will ultimately be probably
Yes.
multiple public hearings relating to the project as it moves forward. If you are to select RXR and GGV to move forward, then ultimately they will have to do a qualified and eligible sponsor process. That will involve multiple public hearings. Any site plan or any changing of zoning that needs to be done or variances would also be subject to public hearing. So, you know, again, this has been a very public process. Just reminding everyone again that this started as an urban renewal area, and then in 2016, the BOA, which was an incredibly public process that we did, the public that was involved agreed that this was the proper location for a transit-oriented development. So that public engagement process will continue as we move forward, as it has in the past. Kathy Eisman's here. She was led the charge on the BOA in 2016. And as we changed the zoning, there were public hearings on those zoning changes. There were public discussions relating to our strategic planning. So, you know, that just keeps going forward. Engaging the public, as we know, through the town square process is critical to success. I know RXR, GGV know that well. And so the only way we move forward is together, and it's a partnership because this is true public-private partnership. We have the land, they have the wherewithal, and all we need to do is move forward, make it happen.
Okay, and Dawn, what would the resolution consist of?
I have a draft I can circulate to the board, and I think you can discuss it when we discuss your resolutions upcoming at this work session.
Okay.
And it basically would be, you know, subject to all of the things that we discussed: urban renewal designation, a financial agreement. Obviously, that's got to be negotiated and discussed, and we have our consultant, they have their consultants. And ultimately, there would be a master developer agreement that would be entered into. So that's, you know, again, part of that public process.
Okay. Does the board agree to move forward?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we waiting on them to be selected by your committee?
The committee has selected, and the selection letter was forwarded to the board, and Kevin Brum's report from NDC, and so Kevin and Matt analyzed the submissions and, you know, can answer any questions you have on this, and then the next step would be for you to designate RXR GGB as a master developer, you know, subject to all those criteria, and then that would get us moving into the next level.
Okay.
Thank you, committee, for your work. I know you put a
Yes.
lot of time into this.
Absolutely.
Well done. And really, I mean,
Yeah.
You made a very good choice.
it was a grind, and they, you know, and all volunteers, and, you know, just great community engagement there, so.
Okay, Dawn, well, Madam Supervisor and members of the council, thank you very much for allowing us in today, taking up your time. Very, very important project. We're looking forward to seeing a lot more of you and continuing this conversation, and I guess we'll hear from you on our next steps.
Thank you all very much for
Thank you.
all the effort and, you know, for what you apparently do is love Riverhead like we do, so that's certainly appreciated.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Right, thank you again. Okay, this concludes our discussion items for today, and next I'm gonna ask Devin to please read the resolutions. Devin?
Okay, everybody ready with the resolutions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Resolution number 1, acceptance of donation from Massapequa Water District. Resolution number 2, tag building HVAC budget, project budget adoption. Number 3, authorizes license agreement with Research Foundation of State University of New York for installation of fish passage camera at Grangeville Park. Number 4, authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for 2022 concession vendors, parks and beaches. Number 5, authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for charter buses. Number 6, authorizes the town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for sporting goods. Number 7, authorizes the town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for fertilizer and lawn chemicals. Number 8, authorizes the town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for 2022 annual procurement contract. Number 9, authorizes the town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for 2022 annual construction contract. Number 10, approves special event Chapter 255 application for the American Cancer Society Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, Long Island. Number 11, approves special event Chapter 255 application for New York Marine Rescue Center, Paddle Battle, Long Island. Number 12, approves special event Chapter 255 application, PC Richards Memorial Day Barbecue Tent Sale. Number 13, approves special event Chapter 255 application for Peconic Pathfinders Earth 5K, 15K Run Walk Hike. Number 14, authorizes the Water District Superintendent to execute a memorandum of understanding with T-Mobile Northeast LLC related to generated power supply at Plant Number 9. Number 15, appoints an Assistant Water District Superintendent. Number 16, ratifies authorization for Sewer District employees to attend seminar. Number 17, authorizes Sewer District employees to attend seminar March 2022. 18, authorizes renewal of a musical works license agreement with the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, ASCAP, Nunk-Pro-Tunk. Number 19, authorizes the supervisor to execute a musical works license agreement with SESAC. Number 20, authorizes the supervisor to execute a license agreement with Broadcast Music, Inc., BMI. Number 21, authorizes Larry Levy, DBA Onsite Productions, Nunk-Pro-Tunk, to provide additional audiovisual production services for the Town of Riverhead 2022 inauguration. Number 22, authorizes the increase of the petty cash account and designation of additional custodian for the Town Engineering Department. Number 23, appoints a provisional site plan reviewer. Number 24, awards RFP for audit services for the Town of Riverhead. Number 25, awards RFP audit services for Town of Riverhead Justice Court. Number 26, adopts 2022 investment policy. Number 27, authorizes engineering department to contract with Musco Sports Lighting LLC and order materials for ball field light installation. Number 28, appoints the law firm of Smith, Finkelstein, Lundberg, Eisler, and Yakubowski LLP to act as special counsel Nunk-Pro-Tunk in the civil action entitled Town of Riverhead v. Carr McVeigh LLC in the Supreme Court, Suffolk County, under index number 617144, 2021. Number 29, approves engineering department request for change order number 2 related to bid for demolition of 117 East Main Street and 121 East Main Street, Town Square. Number 30, ratifies the approval to extend the leave of absence. Number 31, authorizes the supervisor to execute an amendment to agreement with Daniel Bauer, DBA Road K Productions for filming at Iron Pier Beach. Number 32, classifies special permit and site plan application of 374 Main Road LLC as a Type 1 action pursuant to SECRA and requests lead agency status for coordinated SECRA review, 374 Main Road, Aquabog, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-85-3-1.5. Number 33, authorizes the filing of an application for New York State assistance from the Household Hazardous Waste, HHV, State Assistance Program and signing of the associated state contract under the appropriate laws of New York State. Number 34, authorizes final amendment and addendum to contract between the Town of Riverhead and European American Waste Disposal Corp. For residential solid waste collection and disposal services for the Riverhead Refuse and Garbage District. Number 35, authorizes the supervisor to execute an agreement with the Nassau County Police Activity League Lacrosse Unit for referee umpire services and team fees for Town of Riverhead Police Athletic League Boys Lacrosse Program grades K through 8 for 2022 calendar year. Number 36, authorizes the creation of the Para-Abled Programs American Rescue Recovery Grant Fund Committee. Number 37, authorizes the creation of the Assistance to Business Entities and Not-for-Profits related to arts, entertainment, leisure, and hospitality American Rescue Recovery Grant Fund Review Committee. Number 38, authorizes one-year renewal of agreement with Property Registrations Champions DBA Pro Champs. And number 39, reassigns the salary of the senior building inspector. Supervisor, that's it for resolutions.
Yeah, can you just backtrack, Devin, to the Rescue Fund Committee?
Sure?
Four in from the end?
Sure.
Anne Marie, is she present? Anne Marie, we had spoken about that. Who's on the committee? So we can just let the board know and the public.
Anne Marie's coming up here, Supervisor.
So I apologize, I don't have the
Good
resolution.
afternoon.
I don't
Good
have the
afternoon.
resolutions before me, but for the Para-Abled Committee, it's the financial administrator and/or his designee, the community development director and/or her designee, and the department head for the senior center and/or her designee. With respect to the other category, the hospitality and arts, again, it would be CDA director and/or her designee, financial administrator and/or his designee, and head of planning and building and/or his designee.
Right, initially you were part of this committee.
That's correct. That was to designate the American Rescue, make a recommendation along with Dawn and Bill for the funds.
Right,
These are committees for the application process, so when an
Got
entity
it.
applies
Okay.
for the application.
Yes, we just want to clear it up. Thank you, Anne Marie.
Sure.
Before we end resolutions, we just had the two that we had discussed, which are both CDA resolutions. One would be regarding EPCAL, which we have somewhat drafted and can get to you by the end of today.
All right, can you complete the draft and send it
Tomorrow, I
out
think,
to us?
so we'll work on that tomorrow. We just have to add a couple of things that were discussed today. And then I'm sorry, Supervisor, what was your question?
No, go ahead.
Okay, and then the second one would be to accept the recommendation of the committee to designate our XRGGV as the master developer for the TOD. That is a general resolution, and I have a draft I can also forward to you, but essentially, it just sets us in motion for negotiating with them on the transaction, the legal terms of the transaction, and they're subject also to their designation as a qualified and eligible sponsor under urban renewal law. So if you're okay with those, we'll put those in, and you can consider them on Tuesday as well.
I'm good.
Okay, how does the board feel?
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, great.
No problem.
Thank you.
Two real
Great.
important things. Two very
Okay.
important
A busy day for the agency, yes.
Yeah.
You take the weekend off, though.
So, thank
Frank's
you,
gotta work,
Devin, and
though.
thank
We're starting Saturday.
Thank you, Devin, and thank you, Dawn. This concludes our work session for today. Can I have a first and a second to close the work session, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? So moved. Thank you, everyone. This work session is closed, and have a great day, and be safe.
See you Tuesday,
You
Sue.
too, thank you.